You know, like
Yeah, I think I wouldn't mind my hair.
we didn't have
Yeah, I'm gonna sit those stuff.
Maybe a sandwich.
Yep.
That be a thing that I like.
We're about there.
Stanchions that look like volleyball stanchions.
Oh, you're right. You guys are back. I get you.
And then they have a plate, the thing they go, drive the big nails in to hold it in, and it would pop out now. Like, this is ridiculous. Hey, Chris, I'm assuming you've done it instead of No, I think Greg's not supposed to play it on, but I don't think it's not recording it.
Yeah, not recording it. All right.
That one.
Let me know when you're ready, Commissioner.
Oh.
All right.
Don't worry, everybody's watching it.
Ready for you.
Awesome. All right, we will call this meeting to order at 1900 hours. Adopt, adjust agenda. Any adjustments to the agenda? No. All right. And we will adopt the agenda as presented. Approve minutes from previous meeting.
I move we approve the minutes for the March 14th meeting.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Motion passed. Open public comment. Any open public comment?
And we did not receive any by email or phone.
Awesome, thank you. All right, old business. We don't have any old business. So informational items, accounts payable, payroll, budgets, to actual report. Any questions?
I was wondering, there was something new that was given, I can find it.
The budget to actual report?
Yeah, page 40.
Yeah, so now that was one of the things with Springbook, that we can now give you real time every month, and so you'll be getting that every month, so you can see how we are. And this was just expense, but in the future we'll do revenue and expense, so you're seeing how we're moving along.
Awesome.
And then probably quarterly or twice a year we'll give you a more detailed one, but we can get this to you every month instead of the way we have been doing it in the past, which was a few month lag.
That's good. So this is for last year.
Nope, this is for up through like yesterday, right?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, when I say like real time, like
That's
real
pretty
time.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. New business, purchase and sales agreement for Pine Avenue property.
Any questions? I'm sorry, I was getting there. We've been working on this for quite a while. We've been negotiating it. Probably Council Kennan has been doing negotiations through the other party's lawyer. It's Kennan, actually, do you want to?
Yeah, I want to
talk
do
about
a
it?
quick summary of where we're at. Because of the fact that how we're proceeding with this, and they didn't necessarily agree on the purchase price, what we did is in the purchase and sale agreement, we set up a process whereby we determine the purchase price. And in addition to that, we also have our due diligence period. Because of the fact that they were cooperative with us and have been cooperating with us, we're already partway through a lot of our due diligence items. We've got things surveyed. We're working on the hazardous materials assessment, working on the archaeological assessment. So we've been doing all those things while we've been negotiating under the auspices of the letter of intent that you all agreed to. So we finally agreed to the final verbiage on the purchase and sale agreement. These things take time sometimes. And now we're proceeding ahead. We have provided them with our appraisal. We estimate the value at 4.5. And that's for the entire property. City of Snohomish is aware of that. We're waiting at this point for them to respond to that. But in the meantime, we're going to continue forward with our due diligence. And then when our due diligence is done and it is expired at that point, we then put money into an escrow account and then proceed from that point forward. And if we can't agree on the purchase price, we'll go into mediation and get it resolved that way. So we're making great progress, and as soon as we sign off on this agreement, then everything is set as far as moving forward. The only other thing is that when we get close to the end of due diligence, we're gonna come back, report to you, let you know where we are on the price, let you know where we are on all of the contingencies, because there might be certain things that aren't perfect, but you're still willing to accept, and that's what we're gonna be doing going forward. This is the next step in the process.
Awesome.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
About, that I found in here. I don't know, you don't have the numbers memorized. Or you do.
Oh, I'm really great at that. Go ahead, ask your
Well, I
question.
was wondering on, where it says 2.2, it says manner of payment.
Yes,
And it says that purchase price shall be paid in cash or immediately available funds at closing. And I was wondering what that means.
that means that at that point, we're gonna write a big fat check, and it's gonna go into the escrow account, and then that gets released to them.
Okay.
And now how we get those funds, either we borrow it, you have
Oh, that's-
reserves, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
That's what that second part means.
Yes,
Okay, I was just wondering how that went like that.
yeah.
And then in 5.4, you talk about insurance.
Mhm.
And so if somebody goes onto the property and something happens, then our insurance would cover them? Is that how that works?
It depends, okay? So in other words, if our contractors who are doing the due diligence goes on and gets hurt, or they leave something in there, like a hole, or whatever else, and somebody falls in it, that's our fault. So in other words, if we're responsible for it, we take care of it. If it's something that they did, they take care of it. So basically, they wanted to be assured to say, we're gonna let all these people on the property that we normally wouldn't let on the property. And if they get hurt, you're gonna be responsible for it. And by the way, if you dig a hole or do something that leaves a defective condition that injures somebody else, you're gonna be responsible for that too. And that's pretty typical of any type of a deal like this.
Okay.
And then when we hire a contractor, we make sure they prove to us that they have insurance.
Yes, exactly. So all the contracts that we've had, the contractors have to post up. Say what-
Post their insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I also had another one here. It's, I think in 8.4, the first line, it seems to me that maybe something is missing in it, or there's something that shouldn't be in that line. And
No,
I mean,
I'm not saying that 6 attorneys can't miss something.
Well, I mean,
It could be that's just the way it reads. 8.4,
yes,
okay, it reads in connection with and at the closing buyer shall, shall pay any special endorsements requested. It's because of it probably sounds or looks strange because of the fact that they're not using what's called a ragged edge on the text. They're
okay,
using justified text, so it has that extra gap there, so it looks a little bit funny. And I will also tell you that sometimes legalese is not the easiest thing to read.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and so so what we're saying is on this type of cost, if there's additional costs, which we will have, we're responsible for those. So normally what happens is when the seller sells property, you get issued a title insurance policy. And remember, that's just insurance. It's nothing else, it's insurance. We are going to acquire something called an extended title coverage, which then guarantees that the boundaries are where the surveyor says the boundaries are, and that the title is in exactly the same condition that it is. That's gonna be our additional cost. So we're gonna pay that at closing.
Okay, thank you for that. And then, there was, 10.1 has all this large print, and that was hard. to
That's
read.
them,
That was hard
that's
for me to
the,
read, you know.
yeah, oh no, that's for them basically saying, hey, listen, you're buying this, you're doing a complete investigation on it. If you find it, after you're done, if you find an archaeological problem, if you have this, you have that, everything else, that's on you. We don't make any representations regarding any of those types of things, which, you know, in my mind, there's two ways to look at it. It discourages us from, you know, saying, gosh, you know, if we have to take on all liability after we're done, then we better be darn sure that we're moving forward. To me, it isn't gonna make any difference. I never go into buying a piece of property thinking, oh, I'm not gonna worry about it, I'll just sue the guy that sold it to me. No, we wanna make sure before we move ahead. It's a lot cheaper to not buy in that type of situation than it is to buy expecting that you're gonna resolve the problem through a lawsuit. No. We're gonna be darn solid when we go through, and if we find something, it might be minor, but we're gonna take care of it. That's why we're digging all these test pits and doing the survey and measuring everything out there that we can possibly measure.
And then the last line said this even goes beyond
The closing,
the closing.
yes.
So if we find something later on, then that's.
Yeah, like a year and a half, 2 years later, we dig it up and we find a couple of arrowheads or whatever else. And the city says, time out, you gotta, you know, do something else here, that's on us. But that's why we're hiring all these experts.
Okay, all right. And then, I think, 16.3 talks about time. Is that the new timeline that you
Well-
sent us today, or is that something different?
It's, well, I'd have to see that exact section again here, I'll go, take a look at
That's
the
just the
sheet.
one, that's just
So-
the one that says it.
So there's a lot of timelines laid out in here,
Uh-huh.
most of which involve the date that we actually execute the agreement and we sign this agreement, then everything goes forward from there. We have 60 days to do this, 90 days to do this, 30 days to do this, all of these different thresholds, and it all links back to that.
So,
Oh, and this one, when it says time, it is talking about if something occurs on a weekend or a holiday or something like that, extended to the next day.
right.
So, because we don't know when things are gonna sign, and instead of trying to measure it out and say, okay, we can only sign on this date, or it's gonna be 89 days versus 92 days, we just say it's gonna be this many days, and if the 60-day occurs on the Sunday, then it rolls over to Monday.
And after 9 p.m., it's the next day. So if something
Yeah.
comes in at 10 o'clock at night, it's actually tomorrow.
Yeah, I understand that, I was wondering if that was tied together with some of the,
To some degree it is,
Okay.
it's just part of an extension of that.
okay.
Yeah, you'll see when you read through the entire agreement, there's a number of different timeframes.
Right,
So,
Okay. Well, thank you, that's all. Those are the questions I had. Thank
you
you.
bet.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
I don't have any further questions, I'll make a motion.
All right.
Do you have any?
I just wanted to thank you. I know how much work it is to buy property, and this is probably 1,000 times more difficult than anything I've ever
Well,
done.
you know, it is, but it's fun, and you know, this is gonna work out well for Mrs. Harney and her family, and I think they're ready to move ahead with this whole thing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your hard work.
You bet.
Okay, well, I move to authorize Fire Chief Don Waller to sign the real estate purchase and sale agreement between Snohomish County Fire District 4, the buyer, and 5J's LLC, the seller, on behalf of the district. Closing documents will be approved by legal counsel and closing will be authorized by the board.
All right, all in favor of this motion?
Aye.
All right, motion passed. All right.
The next item on your agenda, I already know it's on the relocation assistance. So in any type of government project, we have to offer relocation assistance to what are called displaced individuals, displaced people, or businesses. So those that are getting displaced, we have to help move them. That's one of the incentives to sell to the government, is that we're to move those. I believe that there's 3 residents that are occupied, and then the 1 business there. So this company goes out and they provide them with what's called relocation assistance services. We eventually end up paying for the relocation, but they provide the services. So one of the things that they do is, the first thing is called advisory services. So they go out, meet with the folks, find out what it is that they need to move. The home moves are fairly simple. They can say, you can do a self-move, and they can give an estimate for that. They can do that. Or they can go out and get several bids to help them move. So we're not going to expect someone who's elderly to pick up all their stuff and move it into a truck and do that. That doesn't mean that they can't, but if there's some younger folks living in the house and they'll say, you know what, I'll do a self-move, I'll take the $5,000, I've got some buddies with pickups, we're gonna load it up ourselves and we'll do it that way. They have that option for self-move or the actual cost of the real move. For the business, it's a little bit more complicated because of the fact that they've got all that inventory, how they're gonna move it, they've got a lot of what's called fixtures, trade fixtures in there. Those will have to be moved and relocated, things like that. So that will be a much more complicated move, and we're going to be able to help them out with that, figure out where they can relocate. The idea is to not disrupt their lives as much as possible.
So we don't have to help them find a place to move to, do we?
No, we really don't, quote, have to help them find a place. So what we do is provide them with advisor services, and the agents, though, because it is in your interest to have them move, the agents will come up with a list of potential places for them to go take a look at, right? And they'll say, hey, listen, you got so many months to move out of here, generally 90 days, 3 months. So it's a tight schedule, which is why they wanted to get started on this right away. They will assume that they don't know what they're doing. They've been there for 30 years. They haven't had to move. They have no idea what they're doing. That's what these agents are supposed to do. They're going to help them find the place. They're going to find a place with the right zoning, the right size requirements, and things like that. They're going to give them a list, and then they have to go out and make that choice. But so, in other words, when you say, we're not going to be the real estate agent, no, but will we help them? Yes, we're going to be their learned advisor. So that's what they do.
Does that go for the business as well?
Yes. Especially more so for the business. The homes, that's easy. They can point out residences and things like that. They're all tenants. So they'll be looking for similar rental homes and things like that. The business is going to be a little bit tougher because they have to find, it isn't really light industrial, but it's sort of that retail-ish warehouse, wholesale type location that they're going to want to be located at.
So they do have intentions of reopening?
That's what we understand right now. They could simply choose to go out of business. If they go out of business, the maximum that they would be entitled to under the Uniform Relocation Act is $40,000. And they would just have to, you write them a check for $40K, they just got to get everything off of it. And we don't ask any questions anymore, that's just they're done. If they actually want to move, then they want moving costs, and they take care of it. We understand that at least one of the relatives is still running the business, wants to keep it going somehow. But again, that's going to be their choice.
Any other questions?
The relocation plan that's in here with costs and all that stuff, is that affected any way by the inflation that's going on right now?
So no, that's their cost for their services of all the things that they have to do.
Okay.
The actual amount paid is going to be something else. That's going to be determined by the estimates that we receive as far as the move costs and things
So we'll get another bill back, is it?
Well, yeah, essentially what they'll do is after they figure it out, what it's gonna cost them to move, then we'll give them an estimate, we'll approve their move plan. That's what these guys do, they generally approve it, and then they execute the plan, and then they submit bills to us, and we reimburse them for the approved costs. Relocation costs, there's basically 3 factors in relocation. They have to be actual, which means it's actual cost, generally based on a reimbursement, although we can advance. Reasonable costs, in other words, you're not gonna pay somebody $100 an hour for labor when labor's $25 an hour for a move. And then they have to be necessary. And necessity comes into the idea that you're not gonna spend $5,000 replacing or moving a $1,000 piece of equipment. You'll just trash the equipment, and then we'll give you replacement value for it. We can do that.
I have a question. In this estimate from Collins Food Consulting, they've got 500 hours for a relocation agent. What's that person's role?
Okay,
They're
so-
not a project manager or?
No, so the relocation agent's the actual person that's gonna be doing all of the boots on the ground work. They're gonna be going out visiting with the folks, finding out what they need, looking around the inventory, did that. Now, that's their estimate. Brad did, I've worked with Brad Thomas before, a number of things. He's probably the best relocation agent I know as far as relocation goes. And it's just because it's a tough job. There's not a lot of people that want to do it. The chief and I had an opportunity to go through their warehouse. There's a lot of stuff there. And I think Brad was a little concerned that he didn't want to come in giving you a false expectation of how much time it was going to take. And if you think about it, 500 hours is basically, somebody working, 12 weeks on this. And I think it's a reasonable estimate based on that. If he gets it done faster, they'll move ahead, and it'll be less. But that's the realistic estimate. And Chief, if you want to talk about what you
Yeah,
saw.
he said he put, maybe not some fluff, but he estimated on the very high end because it was really hard for him to get, and I would understand why and get a handle on what the business. So most of the cost is in the business side, and it's because they just don't really know what it all is, because it is just a lot of things stashed in every nook and cranny and.
I think they were running
closet
like
and-
3 businesses out of there or something like that. They had all these antiques. So she had owned an antique store at one time. Then they closed it down. They moved all the antiques into a couple of rooms here. If you guys want the old style coat racks, they've got so much stuff there. And then from their lawn, farm business, they must have had 40 different types of gloves. And when I'm saying 40 different types, I'm not talking about 40 pairs. I'm talking about hundreds of pairs of each type of glove that you can imagine. They have everything from electronic mold traps to, gadgets for the garden to, it's.
I shopped there.
Oh yeah, so you did. It's like going to the fun hardware store. They go, gosh, I didn't even think anybody would make anything like that. So.
He was hoping to come in last, but he wanted to give us kind of worst case scenario.
Yeah. We had some really rough estimate months ago what the entire relocation process would cost. And I think we're past that just as consulted. So
Correct.
I was just trying to clarify, because this isn't including any of the physical labor or the 5,000 each homeowner, 40,000 for the business move. So just a little higher.
It is, and it was really bad because I think when we were doing the estimates, none of us had ever really been in there,
Yeah.
into the back rooms and all that. And we were kind of, Ken and I were kind of going on a average business.
Yeah.
Yes,
This is definitely not an average.
remember, the business move is the actual cost, and it could be, 6 figures plus, it just depends on what it is.
Right.
Fortunately, City of Snohomish sounds like they're gonna be a pretty good partner, and they understand these are the costs of acquiring property.
Thanks for the information.
Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the relocation contract for the Pine Avenue properties to meet the required laws and purchase and sale authorization and direct the fire chief to sign the contract.
All right, we've already had discussion around this motion. All in favor of this motion? Aye. Motion passed. Budget adjustment.
Excuse me, one more thing, I just want to warn you, and then I will let you to your meeting here. Under the Relocation Assistance Act rules, if the individuals are, quote, dissatisfied with the determination of the agent, they have a right to appeal to, make an administrative appeal to the board, and if they're dissatisfied with that, they can go to the court. That rarely happens, but because of that, and realizing we haven't done this before, I'm gonna pull together a quick administrative policy for you in case someone is dissatisfied, then you have it on the books before something happens. Good insurance, at least. It's just another box to check on one of these big projects.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So, excuse me, so would we need to have that enforced before we start doing some of these things? Or?
No, I've literally been hired by agencies after the fact where they say, somebody wants to appeal for relocation. And I say, well, what does your rules say? And they go, we don't have any rules. I say, well, we're gonna make some. And then you make them and you pull it together and then they file their appeal and you go from there.
Yeah, and we have a few months before that happened, because they would have, this consultant have to get all their work done, they have to be dissatisfied before you come to it, so.
And this relocation piece can take a while, and the reason why I say it can take a while is that, these people are gonna move out, and they might not know all their costs. Because some of what happens in relocation is, it's not only, imagine if it was a machine shop, this isn't gonna be a real complicated one, but imagine if it was a machine shop. They have to disconnect all their equipment, that's a cost, considered a move cost. Then they have to move into the new place, reconnect it, they might need special electrical, might need this. So they can continue to submit bills for like up to 18 months after they're actually physically moved in order to get this done, because it has to be actual, reasonable, necessary. So this could go on for a while. I don't see that as being an issue, because probably the most complicated machine they have in their service is their point of sale, and I don't even think their point of sale is one of the new electronic ones. But it is going to be a process to inventory the stuff, pack it up, and move it. That's what we're going to have to cost.
And then at the end, you said we'd come back again with another bill for.
Well, they'll submit their claim for relocation.
Okay. Do they all come in at once, or can they be staggered? Or
So
how does that work?
the agent tries to get them to come in at once, so that we know what the whole package is. But sometimes they could be staggered in that, hey, I've got to move this truck, and I've got to do this, and it's money out of pocket. We verify it, we reimburse them for that claim at that point.
At that point, then we do.
We can also advance some funds. Say, for instance, they've got 3 estimates for move costs, and it's gonna be so much to get the truck and everything else. They don't have the cash. We can advance that, or we can make a direct pay on their behalf to the mover. The idea is we don't wanna just give somebody a blank check and
Sure.
then leave the stuff there.
Now that comes back to the board then. We have to approve those because it's funds going out.
Right, yeah, but generally the process is that, so the relocation folks, they will review the bills, verify it for you, so you have a clear audit trail. They'll submit it to the chief says, yes, move ahead, and it'll come show up on your vouchers.
So do we want all those to come to us, rather than using that one policy that if it's under a certain amount, they can pay it, or how do we want to do that?
It would have to come to you, because that policy says it not only does it have to be under, so it has to be budgeted for. This was not budgeted for.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's fine.
All right, any other questions?
And yeah, there'll be more questions, but
Yeah.
this will be a process and, you know, we've got to just move to the next step. So we're making headway. That's good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Your time.
You bet. Good night.
All right, budget adjustment, sustenance and lodging, 3170 and 4305.
Yeah, fairly small amounts, 5,000 each, but they're fairly small budgets, and we're doing some stuff we hadn't planned on, so just moving it in now so we don't get under. So when we get your budget to actuals, we don't have a negative amount. So we just finished 2022 today, and I had put an estimate in there of 650 to 850. It came in at 843. Cash carryover from 2022. So obviously, plenty of money, and in June we'll come to you with how we want to resolve the rest of the 2022 money, but we'll have a plan. We have a plan. We want to wait a couple more months just to make sure we're where we think we are before we do that. Obviously, 10,000 out of 840 is not significant.
So the fellow who is working with us on an ongoing basis, his funds come out of a different one?
The consultant?
Yeah.
Yeah, the consultant comes out of the consultant fund, and you moved it a couple months ago.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So-
That's,
Correct.
has nothing to do
No,
with this.
correct.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve line item adjustments from 2022 excess funds, 5,000 to 3170 and 5,000 to 4305.
All right, all in favor of that motion? Aye. Letter, response to South County's letter. All right, the chief had sent us a letter. Do you have any questions about it?
I don't have any questions about the letter, the content. I have a question about the CCs.
Yeah.
And I think it would be good practice that we include all the folks that got a letter in the first place or were CC'd in our response, so that there's kind of a tie-off there. And I think that would go a long way maybe to help keep good relationships going
Yeah.
with these various groups, you know, that we're talking about.
Yeah.
To include them, all of them.
Okay.
So I would suggest we add the one that's missing.
And that's in regards to the mayor of Snohomish.
That's correct.
What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's informational and they'll be on and off her desk so quickly. I don't think it sends any wrong or convoluted message to have her CC on it.
So then we'll direct you to, so on our letter.
I'll just add that and
Yeah.
grab an out for you to sign.
Perfect. All right. So the motion is going to be adding the mayor to the CC. So,
Since she was CC'd on the letter to us,
Yeah.
it just makes sense to.
close the loop. All right. All right.
We need a motion.
Yes.
I'll move that we approve the letter as drafted with the adding of the mayor as a CC representative there, and direct the chief to send it out as otherwise written.
All right. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Motion passed. SOA audit report.
Well, I'll let Chief Rader do a little bit, but I just want to say that we got our audit back. Almost always there's at least some recommendations, even if there's not findings or management letter, and we don't even have any recommendations, which is I've never heard before. So Chief Rader put a lot of time into this, and so I appreciate the due diligence to go back and look through all of files that he didn't create or wasn't even here in the department to get that done. So anything else you'd like to add about the
No,
audit?
other than, this is Mike Gatterman's work, Chief Gatterman's work. So I got to dig through his files and find stuff and provide stuff. And Jack will be a little bit surprising in the end. wind up with the better results than we've actually had in the past, but we did, so no complaints.
Exciting.
So this next year, it's going to be part of his and then yours.
Yeah,
Is that-
actually, yeah, he submitted everything for 2022 up to June. And then the 2022 numbers will be mine. It is half his and half mine, and I will own it all, yes.
Okay. Well, I sat in on their report back and I thought it was very, they had high comments about what we were doing here, so I think that's very good for the district, you know. And reports online, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is.
so you'll find it there, anybody out there.
As will be.
So yeah, it was just informational, and so unless there's any other questions, you can find it, you have it for your perusing as needed at night.
So they'll proceed.
You have trouble sleeping?
Not that much trouble.
All right, on to comments. Any other discussions around the report? Are we good? No. All right. All right, comments, district staff.
Any questions on the operations report? I don't want to read it to you, but I can just paraphrase real quick that March 16th, Chief Mansfield's crew responded on a pretty significant residential fire at Hillcrest where they were able to locate quickly and remove a victim. Crews did a really nice job from turnout and response to pretty impressed on how fast they were deploying the line and getting in the door, and so we had a positive outcome. So I'd like to publicly thank their crew for a job well done. We recently, I think last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago, you guys had approved an inflatable kayak. We have since received that kayak. It is deployed. So the crews have been practicing, it's because it's deflated, it's on the battalion, but they've went as far as practicing removing it, seeing what the most efficient way of filling it. We're working on a system with that can tie into our air bottles, getting some fittings to deploy it even faster, but that is currently on the battalion rig and deployable. We are hosting a rope rescue class starting May 8th. It's going to run the 8th through the 13th. We have 11 district board members signed up for that class, 1 surfer, and then 2 of the zone county tech team members from surfer are bringing TR-31 to that class as well. So we're going to have pretty good attendance along with the TR. Really, really good instructor that happens to live in our area, so we're pretty excited about that. So I hope to report to you in May that we got 11 rope rescue techs, and then we'll start working on the confined space and the fringe to round out so they can participate on the team. We did have 1 resignation on the swim team. One of our lieutenants stepped down, just didn't have the time. We've completed a swim test for members wanting to join the swim team, and we do have a member enrolled to take that spot. So we got somebody going through training also starting in May. And then on the EMS front, through the county, and it started a couple of years ago through the Pulse Point app, the county has been asking departments to locate and input all the public AED access points, so anybody that might have that app on their phone and a CPR call comes in, it would alert them to the closest AED. We used some of our members in the last couple of months around light duty to actually go out and do the field surveys and start that process. And by no means are we done, but we got the schools, we got some of the bigger complexes in. So I'd like to thank Lieutenant Sean Osborne and Chelsea Deal for gathering that information and getting it in, and when you pull up Pulse Point now and zoom in on the map and look for AEDs, we're one of 2 agencies in the county that actually have them showing up, so we're ahead of a lot of departments on that. And then last thing I'll share is that our last 2 newest paramedics that we hired have completed all their county checkoffs to actually practice their ACLS skills in the field. So they're actually currently able to perform the ACLS skills now that they got their county protocol and all that stuff. And then ask for any questions.
I was wondering on your first item, on Gilchrist. I walked by there yesterday, and I noticed there was a big yellow hole sitting in front of their door. Is that something off one of the rigs?
Yeah, did you grab that for us?
I didn't go up, what?
It could be. I don't know. I don't know if we're
I
missing.
just
any
saw, it was
equipment,
just
but-
sitting up there next to the house, and I was wondering if maybe.
Did it say caution on it?
No, it wasn't paper. It looked like a metal,
Oh.
something metal that you might use for something.
We'll do a drive-by in the daylight. As far as I know, we're not missing any equipment, so hopefully it's not.
Well, it may not be in.
You might have a purchase request next
Yeah.
week.
Well, you know, you guys have different kinds of stuff, you know. I just saw it, and wow, that's kind of
BC
interesting.
Mansfield has an errand to run after.
Yeah. Driving somewhere.
Hell around, I think you're wrong.
Outside the front door. Yeah.
I have a question about the kayak, which I've seen them at Surfer. They're cool, you know, they're all set up, and I saw it and said, oh man, we need those. I want that. You know, it seems really functional. My question is, I'm not sure what NFPA chapter of 1006 covers the rescue swimmer program, but I'm pretty sure that the kayak is like swift water, surface water rescue, like boat operator, because it qualifies as a boat, right?
It is not boat operator, but is a power vessel. But it is, so that
Swift water.
if it's on swift water or
Yeah.
surface water, it's on surface water. So you have to be a tech for whatever you're deploying it on.
That's what I'm getting around to, is does the policy and usage reflect, and I would hate to be the person who's got a kayak, who has a paddleboard and sees a use for it and doesn't have some piece of paper that says I can use it or not. And, every person crosses that bridge when they get there, but just how have we kind of prepared
I know
policy?
Our swim techs are trained on both.
They are,
Yes.
Okay.
They are rapid entry, swift water, and John is in the audience and our team captain is in the,
Okay.
yeah, hopefully we're not putting them on a body of water they're not qualified for. I think they're qualified to enter the bodies of water that we protect anyways.
Yeah,
cool, yeah. It's
we
just-
used to do it still wear our appropriate life vests while we're out there.
Right. It might take I just haven't read the policy for water entry or rescue for District 4 recently, but I know that sometimes those have to be tweaked a little bit, so,
Yeah.
it allows for entry for some, not for others, and so the boats, or the paddleboards arrive, and so I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, since they're techs, only our techs can enter the water,
okay,
whether it's on a kayak or not.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's on the battalion, because we don't ever know where our tech's at or
Yeah.
how many we have. And so
Okay.
it's up to the techs to respond and the battalion to respond, and the techs are the only ones that are trained on the kayak and really know how to use it and where it's at. So it's only the techs that will be deploying the kayak. So then it really is just considered an entry, whether you're swimming or on a kayak, so our policy covers it.
And we're,
Because of that.
yeah, and
So
we're
everybody else is operational and has to be within, 10 feet of the water, have a life vest on, and can't go past their knees, and it was.
this is mostly just informational for me out of curiosity, like, I know how you guys do business, and it's solid.
John read 1006, I
Yeah.
made him read it a few times.
A few times.
Your bedtime reading?
Yeah.
It's pretty thick.
our deployment of the battalion, and I've seen a few battalions do this in the last month, is they'll pull it out and have the on-duty crew go through it and let's see how to best deploy, because I think the thought process is whether they're water techs at 43, they're showing up, they can start working on inflating this, so when the water tech does get there, that they got that equipment ready to go.
That's great.
And you still have to, with it in, you still have to have the downstream spot, yeah. Basically, it's just like being a swimmer.
Mhm.
You still have to have the safety of the downstream spotters, which could be operational people.
I guess that answers the motor on the kayak. We're not qualified.
I was gonna say, all of our swim team is about to join the surfers swiftwater rescue next week, the refresher. And we're taking our kayak to it, and all of our guys are gonna deploy at their training, at our swim training.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was mostly just out of curiosity I asked.
Sure.
but,
To
super
your
squared
point,
away,
honestly, I don't think our policy identifies a kayak because we didn't have it when we wrote it, so that's probably something we will have to review potentially and look to see if we need to add anything in, so make it a note also.
but I'm sure you can imagine how one might be tempted to deploy it, even if a person was not a technician.
Yeah.
So just as long as there's a policy that's supportive of the public and the membership on that topic, that'd be good. So,
Was the district involved a couple of years ago trying to find a person who drowned out Blackman's Lake?
Oh, Blackman's at all.
Yeah, initially we were, and then it went to the search and rescue and the Snohomish County dive team,
Okay.
and our surrounding water rescue technicians.
Yeah, I know Snohomish County found them.
Yeah.
So that's what the kayak could be used for
Sure.
too?
Yeah.
To that kind of a
Yep.
thing, okay.
Yeah, our swim team, our technicians should be able to deploy that in any of the waters that touch our district.
The only thing we're not certified in is floodwater. So we can't deploy anything in floodwater, because it's a separate certification under the NPA. Or surf, we can't go out in the sand, but
Ice.
ice, ice, thank you. So ice, flood, and surf are all separate under an FPA 6, and we are not in those three.
I thought one of the reasons why we got one of the brush rigs is because it was so high it could go out there and flood around water.
So if you're in a vehicle, you're okay.
Oh.
They just can't get out of the vehicle into the water. If it's above your knees. So who's the tall one, Daryl? If it's really deep, we need to send Daryl out.
She rocks.
It's a real tall, real tall, yeah.
Yeah, it's all the nuances of 6. It's wonderful.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand how,
Yeah.
one way and
So
not
like,
the other.
under NFPA, a flood is not the Pilchuck Road. Flooding is when the water gets onto First Street or Old Snohomish Monroe Road or out in the Pilchuck playground. So if it's outside of its normal channel, that's considered flooded. We're not allowed in water that's outside of its normal channel. And if you'd like, I can go over to my 6 foot if you'd like. It's almost better than the SOA.
Okay.
Anything else?
I just want to add a couple of things. I know you've got my written report, but once in a while, we need to catch people doing something good, doing something right. And we've got a couple of people, I just want to bring this up because a few of them are in this room tonight with us. And like many fire departments, we do a lot of tours. Preschools come, we go out to the schools. Recently, we had a tour that came in here, a whole bunch of little kids just had a great time. And John Stewart and Fletcher College were part of that group that led that tour. I don't know what they did. I don't know how they did it.
Secrets of the trade.
Okay? But when it was all said and done, Chief Hodgkinson and I were standing at the front door, and an older gentleman came up with a little girl as part of the tour and said, "Hey, can we use the restroom for his granddaughter?" I said, "Sure, come on in." We started talking to him. And he says, "That's the best fire station tour I've ever been on." And I thought, okay, that was really nice. But when he qualified it with, he's retired after a 37-year fire career at the Bellevue Fire Department, that really meant something both to Jason and I. the compliment to give our people for doing that was really neat. So that was one of them. I want to compliment our chaplain and support group as well. You can see in there, Margie Jacobson attended the OSO Memorial. And if you weren't there for the initial thing, maybe you've seen some of the memorials. I had the unfortunate opportunity to be one of the first people that was dispatched there. And after that, you know, they're doing the memorials, they're still working on the memorials, but Margie went up and represented Fire District 4 for us in that capacity as chaplain and support officer here. In addition to that, she recently gave an invocation and opening prayer for a group of approximately 700 people down at the Angel of the Winds Casino, which is huge. You know, talking in front of 5 people sometimes is tough. She did on our behalf for about 700 people. And the things they do, not only the prayer stuff, but the support officer stuff that they go out and do for our community is really second to none. They're getting dispatched time and time again, auto aid and mutual aid to our surrounding partners because of the reputation that they have earned to get out and help the citizens when they need help and help the battalion chiefs that are on scene and the crews as well. So thank you, Jeff, and your group as well. Jeff Anderson is our lead for our support group and our chaplains group. And I just want to recognize at least those individuals tonight for the stuff that they've done and for the comments that Bellevue firefighter gave our people on that day. It was really neat. And any questions about anything else that's written?
You know, I was wondering what we do to help the chaplains if they have an issue or if they have like a death in the family or something like that. What do we do to help them?
It's a really good question, Commissioner. We recently, a chaplain that retired last year, just lost a family member. And then today I was informed that a former chaplain that served us here at Fire District 4 for 21 years lost his wife, and I just found that out today. In answer to your question, is they have developed a regional network of support as well. And when word gets out, then those people that they've developed relationships with come together and help them. It's a great question. And Jeff will tell you, I'm always asking, I don't know how you do it. What do you need? And they constantly are in communication with each other, just with our group, as well as the surfer group. Support 7. What are the other groups? Jeff, you're here.
Northwest Incident
Northwest Incident Support, thank you.
Marysville's got a chaplain program as well. And that's the big ones. Supports them a lot.
So a lot of support out there for them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Rader?
Yeah, I definitely got the short end of the stick when it came to duty assignment. There's nothing near as thrilling and exciting for these guys. A lot of spreadsheets and audits, but I'm happy to chat with you about it. So I've got another audit coming up, working on some more stuff. One of the things that they did not mention in the audit that they had for, I think, the last 8 years that I went back and looked was fraud. Fraud's been a kind of a huge thing. We've gotten nailed on it. And audits are one of those things where they'll focus on a half dozen or 10 different things. You can either shine or they can get you pretty good. So we're working on the weak points that at least that they've identified for us in the past, and that's fraud. Fraud's a huge thing, mostly because it's growing. Leaps and bounds governments are being taken advantage of and hacked. And so, anyways, so we're working on making improvements in those areas as well. So more to come on that, and then you'll start to see some more products coming out of Springbrook. We've got Chris and Sam and we're all putting stuff in. So the more data, the better data we put in, the better data and reports we can get out. So we should be able to provide for you even treasurer's report monthly, a pretty standard report and pretty comprehensive. So something we should be looking forward to as soon as we get through the first quarter and get everything wrapped up for the finals. But that's about all I got for you. Any questions at all?
Yeah, thank you.
Just gonna hang on to what Chief Frater said about fraud. I sent you an email, but just kind of going over, we're in the middle of a complete audit of our cybersecurity and our hardware, software. We're upgrading, redoing, changing. I can tell you we'll have a presentation to you guys, and probably some budgeted adjustments, because some of the things that we're adding are increased monthly subscription costs from the old system, but it's all to be best practice with that. So that'll be over the next 2 to 3 months. Things will be coming to you for that, and then we're going to give you a full presentation on what we're changing and why we're changing, just to mention that. And then for my report, I just want to touch on 3 things. We just finished the oral boards for all the probationary people. Their final test with the chief oral board, and everybody passed. So new set of firefighters have moved from probationary to firefighters. So that's always exciting. They got their black helmets and helmet shields, and are pretty proud of that. So one of them's in here. Yeah. Like I said in there, we continue to audit everything we're doing to try to save money, and we just did another whole work through our insurance and reduced our premiums again. We've been, I think every year since I got here, our liability and building and vehicle insurance, we've lowered the premiums every year, so we continue to do that. And then finally,
Next question on insurance.
Yeah.
So I asked a question before about insurance. So does our insurance company then pick this up with the new property and that insurance that we're talking about there too, or?
yeah, so the insurance that was specifically in there is the buyers want insurance, or the sellers want insurance while they still own it until we take possession, in case something happens. And so that's for when our consultants are out there. So when we do our soils and our hazmat, they're digging big pits, they get tripped, and so the seller doesn't care who it is, so they put it on us because we're the only ones for the buyer, the only ones they can, but we just turn around and put it onto our consultant. So really, it's the consultant's insurance that would pick those
But that's
up.
gonna be like a one-time insurance policy, it's not like gonna be.
Correct,
like a
and so
normal
we're
insurance,
not,
it's gonna be, yeah.
and no, so once we get ownership of it and we own it, then it automatically goes on our insurance.
So that's not gonna be, that's gonna be costs that we're gonna get from them, not gonna be.
Correct. So we'll let VFIS know when we get it, and we'll have a new premium and a new cost. We'll have to go through that, which will probably be another budget adjustment. But yeah, the insurance that's in there is the seller basically saying, hey, when you're doing all your feasibility study stuff, we're not gonna take any liability, that's all on. And then we say, because it's all being done by contracting, so we all put that back on the contract behind. And then the last one, good news, bad news. Good news is we just had 5 part-time people get employments throughout the area, North County, South County, and Whidbey Island. Bad news is we got 5 part-timers that got full-time jobs. Unexpected, we were kind of planning for 2, maybe 3. 1 for sure, we figured 2 probably, and maybe a slight chance 3, and so 5 is a lot more than we were expecting, so that's definitely gonna put a damper on our staffing through the year. So we'll be working on hiring probably 4 more for the fall, and we're okay budget-wise because that bill will come in the 24 budget, so we'll just budget that accordingly in 2020.
You say hire 4 more, is that full-time or
Part-time.
part-time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions about our report, those are just the 3 I wanted to highlight. So we're really excited for the firefighters. They're all obviously been great employees, and it's great for them to move on to their career.
Yeah.
We had a clause in one of the things about staying here so long, and all met that requirement, or?
Worked through all of them. We're 3 out of the 4 that we know right now, if they owe any money for academy reimbursement, it's gonna be minimal. One of them for sure has met it, depending on when their actual start date is. If it's mid-May, which 2 of them are right in that mid-May, their obligation will have been met. If they go a little earlier, it'll be a pretty, I don't want to say insignificant, but a pretty small amount that they would owe. But we do have a part-timer that if they get picked up, it would be fairly sizable, because the agreement is we front the cost of the academy for 12 months of shift work. And so it's prorated by month, so it would be probably several thousand for that individual, but for a full-time job, I don't think most of them are gonna be too upset about that.
And we've already had, in the last couple of years, we've had 3, 4 that have got jobs and paid substantial amounts back. So it's already been, we've already been using it and have a pretty good system.
Commissioner comments? Anyone have any comments?
You know, I think I shared what I, before about the audit. When we were talking about that.
All right. I did forget, district staff. Anybody have any comments? Excellent. Good, cheat coded. Perfect. All right. Well, then any other comments, commissioners? All right, well, then we will adjourn the meeting at 17:58. Nice.
Before you drive away, you want to walk over to the office, so I can grab you one.
Yeah, absolutely.